And welcome back to LFC Transfer Room, powered by passion, fueled by facts. I'm your host, Charlie Sadiva, bringing you the latest news, analysis, and transfer updates straight from the heart of Anfield. Let's dive in. So, bit of a special one. We're joined by the brilliant Sam Davis from the Back of the Net podcast. It's a Bournemouth dedicated podcast where you guys talk really passionately about Bournemouth, just like what we do here in the LFC Transfer Room. Sam, how are you today?
Yeah, very well. Not too bad, apart from talking about a big loss for us on the pitch. But other than that, all good. And I'm looking forward to the football season starting again.
Yeah, I've really felt for you guys because obviously you're a really good progressive team that's done really well. Certainly under your current manager, but with that, and you've kind of been picked apart and picked off with Dean Howson going over to Real Madrid. We won't talk about Real Madrid because they've taken one of our best players. True. And then there's potential for Zabani as well. You mentioned earlier. So how are you feeling as a Bournemouth man Bournemouth fan these days?
Yeah, it's strange. I mean, I always know that being a Bournemouth fan and AFC Bournemouth as a club, we are a small fish in a big pond. And last season we did exceed our expectations. But the reality is we know our place in the footballing food chain. And that is that when you've got stars that shine, and maybe for a couple of seasons, they're going to use the club as a stepping stone to go on to bigger things. And that's kind of been driven home over the last month or so when all these stars are moving on to bigger and better things, which we can understand. The fear for us is that this season, at least, we've had four out of five of our backline, potentially with the loss of Zabani, like you say, if he goes as well, that would be complete, decimation for that particular part of the field. Sometimes we expect stars to go in different areas. We get that, but not all in the same place. So it makes for an interesting start to the season. I'm sure we'll recruit, but look, as a club, siege mentality and being, up against it, having adversity all the time, that's in our DNA somewhat. So yeah. I'm sure we'll come through it, but it's going to make an interesting ride, that's for sure.
It will be. It will be. I mean, I guess for me, looking from the outside, if I compare you to Brighton, if you don't mind me doing that, and how well they've done and how they've operated, certainly over the last 3 years, where they buy so many attacking players, and essentially that's what their MO is built on, and so they will sell those attacking players for good money. I know Caicedo went for good money. He's a defensive midfielder, but in that respect, they've continued to build and do the good things that you would expect from a team like Bournemouth and the way that they operate, and hopefully Bournemouth can continue to do that as well. Is that the general feeling with you and the fans that you speak to?
Yeah, I think it's a compliment for us really to be mentioned in the same sentence as Brighton, because effectively they're the blueprint for a lot of teams our size.
A lot of teams.
Yeah, your Fulhams, your Brentfords, and of course us as well. Maybe Crystal Palace in some ways.
Chelsea.
They would probably not want to admit
they take everything, don't they? So
yeah, exactly. But that's what we have to do. We've got to realise that when we sign players, they're not signing to stay with Bournemouth for the rest of their careers. We're not naive enough to think that, but we know we've got to hopefully buy low and sell high, and that's what we've done with players so far. And that's the case with Milos Kerkez. We probably feel as though we could have maybe squeezed a few more million out of you, but Richard Hughes, we know that he plays hardball, and that's what he's doing again. So yeah, it's really a credit to us to be mentioned in that same sentence, and that's the model for us. And as long as we can build slowly in the background, and I'm talking on the pitch and off the pitch as well, we've built a new multi-million-pound training complex. We've got
stunning, that is.
Yeah, talk of the stadium redevelopment as well. That's what we want as supporters. We want more bums on seats, and if we can do that with the money that we're getting in, plus also keep fighting in the Premier League, then happy days for us.
Absolutely, 100%. So you mentioned Milos Kerkez. He recently joined just a few days ago, yesterday, to Liverpool for £40 million. I guess it's the worst kept secret in football that it seemed over the last few weeks. Was it a surprise that he actually did join Liverpool? Is it something that took fans at surprise, or we're kind of expecting, again, just like you mentioned, those players will be moving on, and how quickly it's kind of all happened?
Yeah, I mean, like you say, it has been the world's worst transfer secret. I think there were murmurings of it ever since January. Really, we
Yeah.
always knew that Milos being in his second season with us, it was probably going to be his time to move on. But I think there were a number of factors which made it happen for for Liverpool. One, Richard Hughes being there, he was the person that was basically chatting to him even 5 6 months before he joined Bournemouth. He's got a very close relationship with him, and Richard Hughes knows his family so well. The fact that Liverpool are an unbelievable side, best side in the country, always competing in Europe, Champions League football as well. Absolutely huge for him. He wants to test himself at a higher level, which of course I can understand. The fact that his best mates there as well in Dominic Soboslai,
Yeah.
huge factor for him and his Hungarian teammate as well. Plus he's probably in the corner of his mind, he's also thinking, well, hang on, Liverpool have got a left back at the moment that's maybe reaching the twilight of his career. So if I join them, I know that I will have competition, but there's a chance that I'll be a shoe-in for that place as the season progresses. So for him, I think it's a no-brainer. He'll obviously be getting paid more as well,
Hmm.
and yeah, it is a good move for him. But it's one of these things that as Bournemouth fans we've had to get used to. We always knew it would happen, but one thing we could say about Milos is that his application on the pitch was absolutely fantastic, and he never put in less than 100%. And he's been such a quality player for us.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I mean, from a Bournemouth perspective, how would you describe Kerkez's overall impact at Bournemouth? Certainly since his debut season, where he wasn't really playing, but really filled into that role, didn't he?
Yeah, I think the start of his career wasn't overly easy because that also coincided with a big long loss and draw. A lot of losses and draws under Iraola's first spell in the first sort of 8 or 9 games for us. But then the footballing style clicked. I think at our side we used to be playing under Gary O'Neill, which was a bit more pragmatic and purposeful. But then new players came in, and they had to also learn a different style of football as well, which it took some time. And Milos and a number of other players weren't quite where they should be, but it then soon did click for him. And my God, he's aggressive. He's such a good player for us. Like Iraola's style of football is front foot. It's fast, it's pacey, it's getting up to the pitch, the pitch, winning the ball back in the final third and getting a shot away, and that's everything that Milos does. He's very aggressive, very physical. He's quick. He's got a very low centre of gravity, very, very comfortable with the ball at his feet, likes to overlap, likes to underlap. He was performing better with his numbers this season as well, with a couple of assists and also scoring a couple of goals as well. Puts in a really, good curled but pacey cross as well onto the feet of the strikers. He's a really physical but hard-working player. He's one of these players that trusts himself up that end of the pitch. If he does make a mistake, he's got the energy to get himself back. But I feel as though the fact he won't need to bust a gut to rescue himself out of certain
Yeah.
situations, because Liverpool's ball retention up the top end of the pitch is a lot better than what Bournemouth is as well. So he'll fit into Arne Slot's side like a glove, I'm telling you.
Yeah, no, I am looking forward to it. But sticking with his kind of strengths and style of play. So I guess you've already mentioned a number of things about his standard qualities: the pace, the aggression. What about his positioning? What kind of sets him apart from being, where we've seen him being in the team of the year as a left back compared to others? And there's some notable candidates that would have been in that conversation. But what kind of stands him out compared to the others, do you think?
I think positionally he's matured very very quickly as a player. Even in the 2 years that he's been at Bournemouth, he uses his brain a lot. So whilst a lot of fans would maybe look at him and say he's not the tallest player in the world, he is relatively
Yeah,
short. He makes up for it with his how he's reading the game with his mind. Positionally, I think he's very good. Our fullbacks stereotypically are a lot more advanced than what our centre backs are, and I just think because of that they get utilised a lot more. Hence, he's got a lot of more media attention. There are some left backs that will like sit back and you don't really see them, but
yeah,
for Iraola's style of football, it's absolutely integral to how he wants to play. They're almost one of the most important positions on the pitch. He calls it kind of organised chaos, somewhat,
yeah.
and that's what it sort of can be. So he'll always make sure he gets up that end of the pitch as well, and he produces the numbers as well. So it's no wonder that he's being looked at by a number of Premier League clubs, and a lot of European clubs were interested in him so much because he's always on the ball, and that's what Iraola
Yeah.
wants.
Man City were interested, obviously, and there was conversation there for him to join there, and Man United obviously was interested, I'm sure. But it's interesting about his mentality and what you've described there. Maybe he gets a bit of a raw deal with how the outside footballing world perceives Milos Kerkez in the sense of his intelligence, his IQ on a footballing stage, because of the wild haircuts and the stories you hear, and I've seen a number of videos where who's the most, not annoying, but hyperactive player in the Bournemouth team, and a number of his teammates kind of straight away kind of spoke about Milos Kerkez, and he's 110%. It's dialed to 11. The way I described him yesterday in our stream was, the hyper puppy. Does he get a bit of a raw deal? He's actually a very, very good, intelligent player that reads the game really quite well.
Yeah, he absolutely does. And you're right about his impulsivity. I mean, myself and Tom, who do our podcast, we were lucky enough to get invited to our new training ground and chat to a number of players. And one of the questions we asked was, who's the last person? Say you had to get a coach to Newcastle away or whatever. I know that players tend to fly here and there every time these days. But who's the last person you'd want to sit next to? And they all,
That's
almost
it. Yeah.
as a choir, they sang in harmony, Milos Kerkez. And he's just like a very impulsive player, and like you say, with his haircuts, he let Justin Kluivert cut his hair. He started a YouTube channel where he just sat there streaming, but now he's deleted it. He's that kind of mentality, like he wants to do all at once, but that doesn't affect his concentration on the pitch. I think it actually makes him for a better player. He's very highly strung, but in certain situations he can calm himself down. So you'll see the best of him on the pitch, you really will, when he gives 110%. And then off air, on kind of social media, so to speak, if you want to say it, like off the pitch, sometimes he puts out random tweets and Instagram posts. There was one a few months ago where he put a picture of himself where he used the words "I am incomparable" or "incomparable." So as Bournemouth fans, we were like, what's this guy all about? But it's just his personality, and we are absolutely lucky to have had him as a Bournemouth player, and Liverpool will be too.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. You reminded me, because I was watching your videos around the Bournemouth players, and I saw that video. It was really, really quite funny how they describe Milas. I guess the next thing is the attacking contribution, because obviously from a Liverpool perspective, where we're going to be predominantly playing, hopefully, is in that attacking third. What's his credentials like? Because he's improved from what I've seen over the last couple of years, and the crossing abilities has improved immeasurably. Thinking about some of the goals that you guys have scored have come from him, and Man City comes to mind. I'm sure there was a game against Tottenham where there was an absolutely beautiful ball to the back post. But what do you think?
Yeah, I think at the top of the pitch, his numbers have certainly been better this season, and I put that down to a number of things. Firstly, his transition into playing into Iraola's style, from what he was used to before at his previous club. It's always going to be a steep learning curve for him, but once he found the rhythm with his new teammates, the whole side had a synergy last season that was just really impressive to watch. I think a lot of neutral football fans said that I love to watch Bournemouth games. Milos would have been a part of that as well. Up the top of the pitch, like you say, his numbers have got better. It's just his aggression in winning the ball, and that's what Iraola likes, winning the ball back in the final third, chucking your body in, trying to win the ball back, but not just that, doing something with it as well. So his pinpoint crosses with his left foot's really good. Sometimes, like you say, Spurs away, he managed to intercept a ball only about sort of 25 yards into his own half, run 45 yards up the pitch, and then still have the concentration to whip in a really good ball to the far post. But you mentioned Manchester City as well, 2 assists in that. Everton at home. He's a player that can, run to the byline and maybe cut it back, but also put in a nice early in-swinging ball as well that will meet the feet of the strikers. So he's got plenty of attributes for him. And I think one thing that Iraola likes out of his players is them to be versatile. So it's not just that he can pick up out a 40, 50 yard pass as well, like really good in that department. But I sense the style that Liverpool have got under Slot is a little bit more refined. But because he is a sort of jack of all trades, he will then master what Arne tells him to do. So he will be really effective. And up the top of the pitch, I would not be surprised to see him get a few numbers this season, both in goals but also assists as well.
Yeah, I agree with that because looking at the way that Virgil plays, he has that ability to for the crossfield pass to Mo Salah. We've seen that being really, really effective.
Mm.
Now there's talk of Mark Gay coming across, and I think he's quite underrated as well. For that type of player, who can play the long ball, the kind of different type of balls, a little bit different to what Kanate is. And then Kerkez is now coming in. So what we've potentially lost with Trent may have been shifted over to the left hand side, and that's how I see it.
Mm.
But time would tell. Time would tell. I mean, I guess on the flip side of the strengths and what he offers, is there anything that you think he still needs to improve? He is only 21, and he is. He's played at AC Milan already. He's played at Bournemouth. He's gone to Dutch leagues and gone to semi-finals of European competition. So he's very, very good in what he does. But there's obviously going to be some things that he may need to work on. I don't know whether that's the impulsiveness, but what do you think? Haven't seen him week in, week out.
Yeah, I think is highly strungness, if that's a term. That can also result in him having a short fuse a little bit as well. And he's been sent off before for AFC Bournemouth, so that was I would say a little bit of a blip because usually his discipline is quite good, but because he's that kind of ferocious player, it means the timing of his tackles has to be just right. So that's the only kind of weakness I could say. Like sometimes a few mistimed challenges might result in him picking up a few yellow cards here and there. And like I say, his height sometimes could be deemed as a problem, but the way I see it, the way he reads the game, and also his springiness in the jump as well, means you don't
Yeah.
necessarily realise it so much. But his temperament, I think, is perfect for what Liverpool fans want to see because all they want to see is a team that goes out and puts in 110% every single game, and Milos will absolutely do that for sure. So yeah, I can't really think of any negatives. One thing I could say is that his demeanor could be confused as being him like sulking or anything like that. Say if he
Mhm.
was like, substituted on say 65, 70 minutes, he might walk off and half, but that's maybe disappointment at himself about how he perhaps didn't deploy what Arne Slot wanted him to do on the pitch, for
Yeah.
instance. But other than that, he's absolutely quality, and I can't really say too many sort of bad words against him.
I guess it's youthful exuberance maybe come into it. Again, I try to remember way back when I was 21 and how I was acting and whatnot. So yeah, let's see. I think what I'm getting from you is I feel he can handle the pressure of being at Liverpool. It may not be a case that he plays straight away or plays every game, but there's something there within him, and I think I'm sure what Richard has already kind of seen in him, having brought him into Bournemouth, he could perform in those big games. Do you feel winning big games against big clubs has kind of made Bournemouth the way that they are and respected within the game? But do you think he can handle that?
Yeah, I think he can. I mean, ultimately, whilst you are playing for Bournemouth and you're playing in front of 11,000 fans every other week, you're also playing at the likes of Anfield, like the Etihad, Old Trafford, the Emirates. So he can handle the pressure of ferocious opposition fans as well. We picked up a result at
Mm,
Arsenal. We beat them.
thank you.
We've yeah,
Always love that.
not
Always
not
love that.
not a problem at all. And also, against Manchester United, I know they're not the team that they once were, but they've still got that kind of grandeur about them. But we
Yeah.
absolutely schooled them twice in a row at Christmas, and we played them again this season at Christmas. So we're looking forward to that one away. 2-3 nils from them, and Milos was absolutely pivotal in both of those games to our 3-0 win. So yeah, I think he can handle the pressure. I think if anything, he wants more pressure. I think
Yeah.
that's the kind of lad he is. He's like hungry to be in the big games, and I sense for him just kind of rocking up at the Vitality Stadium and playing it in front of 11,000 people. It fulfills the desire somewhat, but he wants to do that every week, and he wants to be pitting himself also against the best in Europe as well. So I think he'll be hungry to make it a big success for him.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I guess from a Bournemouth perspective, how big of a loss is this? Do you think? I know you've already signed a left back, haven't you? But it's a fair fee, I would say. Potentially, you said you may be able to squeeze a little bit more, but in terms of the transfer and you and how your team kind of moves forward, do you feel there's a massive loss, or is there something that you're quite comfortable with the way that you're performing and recruiting?
Yeah, I do think it's a big loss for us. I mean, ultimately, when you've got a player that's so good in the position that he's in, and then sort of losing other players as well, like in and around him, it means that the person who chucked into that position hasn't got necessarily the kind of experience like teammates playing alongside him to know exactly what's wanted of him. So who our next left back, Adrian Truffert, is going to be playing alongside, we don't know, of course, with the departure of like Dean Howson. But from our perspective, it's an absolutely huge loss, and like Liverpool fans, Bournemouth fans just love seeing like entertaining full throttle football, and that's what Milos contributed to. So it's going to be a steep learning curve for the player that comes in to fill his shoes. But as far as the fans go, they're going to really miss him, and we're going to be watching in awe at seeing him bomb up and down the left flank for Liverpool. But we're also excited to see where it can take him as well, and how he can handle the pressure of being in those big games. But I'm absolutely certain they'll be flawless in those.
Great. So one thing I do like to do is a bit of a quick fire round, and we'll finish it up in that respect. So best quality of Kerkez, what he can bring to Liverpool in one word, do you think?
Tenaciousness.
Very nice. One word Bournemouth fans would use to describe him.
Impulsive.
And then last question. Finally, where do you see his career going over the next 5 years? What's the ceiling in this respect?
If it was one word, it'd be stratospheric. I do think that he's got such a high ceiling, and with Liverpool, he's gonna revel playing for the best team in the land that is probably going to be the best team in Europe next season as well. So I think he's going to love that. He's just got such a hunger and desire just to prove himself, and I think he'll fit in perfectly with that.
Brilliant. I love that. So just before we wrap up, kind of how would you describe what you do in the channel? You've got your own Bournemouth channel itself. It's Back of the Net. Where can people find you? You're on YouTube, I'm guessing, but give us a bit of a spiel as to how you guys operate.
So we're called Back of the Net. We're an AFC Bournemouth podcast. We are called Back of the Net because every time that Bournemouth get a corner, all our fans chant Boscombe Back of the Net, which is an old chant, which is an old name for AFC Bournemouth because we were Bournemouth and Boscombe Athletic. But we try to, even in our low numbers, stand behind the goal, chant that and suck the ball into the net. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But we travel up and down the country watching the Cherries home and away, and we document our experiences via vlogs, and we also do previews and sat down content as well to discuss the game. And we're on audio pod as well on social media as AFCB podcast. But if you just type in Back of the Net Bournemouth on YouTube, you'll find us there as well. And we absolutely just love going to games, and it just so happens that our very first one will be a reunion against Milos Kerkez. So I don't know whether to be looking forward to it or not. I sense that it's probably going to be the latter.
Let's see. First game, who knows what could happen. It's a Friday night as well, isn't it? So it could be quite interesting. But more than happy to kind of keep in touch and maybe have another conversation before, after that game itself. But you mentioned Boscombe. I've got a really good friend that lives down there, and we haven't seen him in a while. So this may be just a bit of a reminder. Go see Tim, who's an Arsenal fan, and commiserate him as well about what's happening. But lovely part of the country, people. If you ever look for something to do, Boscombe is a lovely, lovely place. But that's a wrap from the LFC Transfer Room. I'm Charlie Steve. I want to say thank you to Sam Davis from the Back of the Net podcast. If you have enjoyed this video, hit like, drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more red hot content. Until next time, you'll never walk alone.